4th, 2023. It's 6:03 PM. City of Somerton work session. We're gonna go straight to roll call and then start presentations.
Mayor Gerardo Anaya,
Present.
Vice Mayor Jesus Roldan,
Present.
Councilmember Miguel Villalpando,
He has to be excused.
Councilmember Luis Galindo, Councilmember Martha Gonzalez, Councilmember Juan Castillo, Councilmember Lorena Delgadillo.
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We have a presentation and discussion of possible direction to staff on our CIP and FTEs.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Tonight, we wanted to review some of the projects and ideas and proposals from each department. We understand that we're still looking at the budget and reviewing that, and administration will have some recommendations. But we want the opportunity for Mayor and council to be able to see some of these ideas and some of these proposals. So later on, when we're reviewing, you could provide some direction. And also, if there's something that may not be on there that you would be interested in staff looking at, that you could provide those comments or recommendations. So with that, we'll start. Yes. So first off, with new positions for administration, this is a position that we want to look at that would support community development, economic development, and administration. It'd be an admin secretary in the front. A lot of times we have our staff doing different other things and off on vacation, and so we'd like to see if that'd be something that we'd consider, and we'll be reviewing that if that's a potential, and that would be split up within all those departments. The special projects, that's something the 0.808 tax that Mayor and Council has used for special projects to impact the communities. We're going to follow up with Mayor and Council on those and seeing if there's any interest and what those would be used for, but just wanted to kind of bring that back to light and making sure that we work with Mayor and Council in designating those projects or any recommendations you may have.
There should be a list of projects that weren't executed last year that were identified for the 0.8, so we can get that list and maybe that's at least a starting point for discussion.
Okay, we'll look into that list, Mayor, and update Mayor and Council to review. A really quick, Alexis wasn't able to be here today, but you can go to the next slide. One of the things that we're looking for CIP next year is a backup server, having 2 servers for City Hall. We're looking at this year's budget, so that might be able to be done this year if budget allows. But one of the things that we want to really focus on, the justification is, we just have 1 Windows server, and we want to have a second one mirror security and providing, backup information is very important. So that's one of the things that IT is working on. There's no full-time employees requesting next year. One of the things we're going to look at and evaluate in IT is a potential for a part-time employee, 24, 25. But next year, we're gonna evaluate that and potentially look at if there's a need and what IT is currently doing. So that's a potential for 24, 25. And currently we have an IT senior technician and a help desk supporting all our IT needs for the city. At least at City Hall, I should say. And then again, the part-timer would be if that came in 2025. I don't know if you have any questions over IT.
Questions, comments?
Okay. Next, we'll have economic development. Hector?
Even Mayor and council members, economic development has basically the same positions in economic development director and the graphic designer right now. The only position that, as Louis mentioned, is the sharing the position of admin assistance, just to help economic development and administration and also community development. That's the only change that we in this department is looking for. Hopefully, that will be a lot of help for these three areas that we get a lot of time we get people coming into our office, and instead of waiting for a director, in this case, economic development, we'll have someone to be able to get messages or provide information to the customer coming to the city. The org chart will be basically the same. Again, it's just the adding the administrative assistance position. In case if it's approved, will be dividing the cost in three different departments. Now for the CIP that we have in economic development is the welcoming sign. As you remember, the last couple of years, we started this project with the Cofa High School, doing some initial monument signs. And the one that we were able to start last year was on the entrance of Somerton Avenue and County 15 on the north side. That one is not actually 100% complete. We're still missing some landscaping, some lighting, but the structure is there, and the high school students were able to complete the design. But now, as you recall, also the intent is to do one on the east side entrance on Main Street, and that one, the high school, Cofa High School, they were working on it last year. I'm not sure if they're complete, but we can actually encourage them to continue with this project and potentially install it on fiscal year 23-24. So we had 50,000 just to complete the one that we have on the on Somerton Avenue and County 15, and also the remaining to be able to install the other one on Main Street at the entrance by the Regional Center for Border Health buildings. I believe that was the last location that we discussed with you, council members, that the location for the entry sign. If not, we can look at different places, but that was the last time we discussed about it. So that's for the welcoming sign. The number two, Mr. Garcia property, that's the property on the west side of City Hall. It wasn't a CIP project in the last couple of years. Before we used to have 100,000, but we were not able to negotiate the purchase of this property. So this fiscal year 23-24, we're proposing to put 200,000, but we're not sure exactly. We need to do an appraisal, and based on those findings, the cost may be less or more. We don't know yet. It's only a proposal at this time. We don't know if Mr. Garcia will accept the proposal, but the intent, as you know, is to continue with the parking going west and be able to provide more parking for the new businesses along Main Street. And that's something a lot of businesses are asking for. And that will be an opportunity for the city to acquire that property and be able to provide more parking in the area.
And Hector, if I may add something, Mayor Council, we are also in talks with the church, the Catholic Church, about possible partnerships in those properties that are on the west side also.
Thank you, Louis. Number three, the mailboxes, we're doing right now the ADA compliance. We're doing some fixes on the existing locations. The post office agreed to deliver to Valle del Sol phase 3 and 4. One is 100% approved. The one on phase 4 on the by the retention area, we're doing some changes to the access to those boxes. So city staff is working on that one. So that's for the future one will be like a $50,000 for to make some changes on that ones, including phase 1 and phase 2 in Valle del Sol. Number 4, as you know, this is the facade improvement program that we have the last 3 years to allow businesses to apply for $10,000 loan with 0 interest and to reimburse the city within 3 years. We got one already. We funded the facade improvements on offices on Main Street, and that was already paid back to the city. And we have another one. Mr. Tumbaga requested $10,000, and he's due to pay back the city in the next couple of years. It can be before that as well. So that the amount for that one is $65,000. Number 5. Well, that's the
Avenue D and E corridor.
yeah, I think it's missing one line item here. That is the Avenue D corridor. That's $65,000. That's to cover the environmental review and some of the design for the highway between County 16, Main Street, all the way to County 18. That's the area that we focus in, because the county already have plans to build County 18 all the way to the Cesar Chavez Boulevard in San Luis. So that will be a $65,000 to cover the environmental review.
And just to add that really quick, also, Mayor and Council, the county has applied for a raise grant to help support that project. So we've sent a support letter. So hopefully we'll see how that turns out.
So Mayor and Council, the total is $380,000 for economic development CIP request. Any questions?
Mayor, this is Council Member Villalpando. I have one.
Go ahead.
Okay, I understand that they're seeking a third of an employee. Have they looked at the options of using maybe white pick instead of hiring that position? At this point in time, we've invested so much money in personnel due to consultant work or whatever it may be, that quite honestly, if they're able to cut back on that, then I would be agreeable to the position. But if they're not going to be able to cut back on that, on the consultant, then I would feel more comfortable if they find a different option, which white pick could be a potentially viable option.
And council member, we'll definitely look at, we are working with Arizona at Works in several projects, so we can open that possibility and see if they would be able to fund that position.
Now, one more thing, Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
On the funding that we provide for these facades, or that $10,000 interest-free loan, I just want to make sure that those funds are strictly for that, and that they don't get moved around.
Mhm.
They don't get moved around, probably.
Yeah, Mayor and Councilmember Villalpando, that's correct. Those funds are dedicated only for that purpose, and they have to go through permits and design review by Saúl's
End of the
Department
year.
Community Development.
So I don't want it. I don't want it to go to anything else but that. So at the end of the year, if they don't use it, they should have a surplus in that line item.
Yes, that's correct.
How long have we had this facade program?
3 years, because we started back in 2019, and we did the facade improvements over here, the offices, and that's the only one application we got because of the pandemic. Everything stopped. But after that, now we got requests by Mr. Tumbaga, and we can have other ones.
Next, we have Parks and Recreation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have a presentation here for our capital projects and new positions. I don't know if you can go back the first slide. As you know, the City of Somerton Parks and Recreation Department is always very busy and dedicated in keeping Somerton the best little city in Arizona. I'm excited to share with you some of our capital projects for our next fiscal year, as well as the need for 2 new full-time positions. On the first slide, we have Council Park. We have Council Park fencing. The amount that we're requesting, the estimate amount will be 31,000. It will be to keep our park safe, a better security to protect the park for vandalism when we're doing events, and obviously, like, again, for safety. We have our community center remodeling. This will be kind of like a short-term project, and as well as our community center gym floor restoration projects. The amount will be 56,000. As you can see on the picture, if we go on the other slide, we have our LED sign, and on the left side, you can see the image of our current marquee that we have. And obviously the one on the right will be the one that we want. And we're requesting the amount will be 126,300. And this will help us promote our events, activities in our community. The next slide, we have Centennial Park fencing. The amount is 42,000. It will be a iron fence, more decorative than a chain fencing. We'll have more control, access for special events, rent it out as a garden area for private events, birthday parties, art and cultural activities. We were able to have our museum in the future, similar to the Sanguinari Museum in Yuma. It can also be an outside venue for the city. It will be beneficial and it will get additional revenue. It will also it's also proposed on our fee schedule. We have John Munoz Park. If you go back on the same slide, please. John Munoz Park improvements. We're right now doing a research for cell tower revenues that we have. And that allocation will focus on our improvements for our park. So we're trying to figure that out and make sure that we have that revenue. And one of the improvements right now that we're going to complete is the skate park lights, and it will be completed for this fiscal year. We also have Perrycombe Park improvements, and we're working with a grant right now that was submitted with Arizona Parks and Trails. We were awarded $164,495. With some revision to our application, we're anticipating additional $200. The total project will be $564,495. The city is matching $200. So I'm sorry, 200,000. Another project that is also one of our priority projects that we have will be the underground APS power lines. We're currently working with APS, and the amount will be 50,000. And then we have another capital project. It's the Christmas tree. Our residents observe during the holiday and make the city more cheerful during the time. We have 3 different sizes and 3 different amounts. One is a 20-foot tree. It will be 18,890. The 22 feet will be 22,920. And the 24 feet will be 28,750. So we can be adding more if you liked. And this tree will be, one of the ideas, it will be installed under the water tower. I'm sure it's gonna look very nice. We also we're requesting a new vehicle. As you can see on the picture, we have this red truck. We're requesting 45,000 and we'll replace the 1997 Dodge Ram. But yeah, you can see it on the picture that we really need a new vehicle for this new fiscal year. And that's a picture of the one that we're requesting. It will be like a new Ford Ranger. The new positions that we're requesting for this coming up fiscal year, one of them is administrative assistant. It's a full-time position. Our department needs someone responsible for monitoring and handle rental facilities and scheduling. The Parks and Recreation Department will benefit in hiring a full-time administrative specialist because he will offer support to the Director of Parks and Recreation Department, and an administrative specialist can streamline all clerical duties such as scheduling meetings, running reports, answering phone calls, and offering customer service to both internal and external customers, thus giving the director more time to focus on strategies, services, and high-level decision-making that will be most beneficial to the Somerton community. The estimate cost for this full-time position is around $44,409. The next position will be a maintenance specialist. Is a part-time converted to a full-time position. The justification for this position is increase of green space to include Perrycombe Park. It's 10 acres with 2 soccer fields and restrooms, and a new park with shelter, green areas, and the pond maintenance. And this, obviously, this is coming up in the future. Facilities maintenance has increased using park staff for small repairs, sinks, filter replacement, lamp replacement, office installation, and more. Increase the level of service throughout the park system and non-retention districts. Its budget allows the installation of more trees in parks and landscape at Joe Munoz Skate Park and parking area. Special events have grown, adding additional park employee support. And the estimate for this position will be $42,037.20. So yeah, that's what we have. This position will increase our budget a little bit. So yeah, that's what we have from Parks and Recreation. And this concludes our presentation. If you have any questions.
I have a question. On the administrative assistant, didn't we have one before?
Yes, we did, but that was somehow, there was a transferred or changed around differently when I believe when we had other directors. So they've changed, I guess, that position. So it no longer exists in the Parks and Rec.
So they removed it from Parks and
They
Recreation.
removed. Oh, okay.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, go ahead.
yeah, to answer Councilman or Vice Mayor Jordan's question, yeah, it was absorbed by, I believe was 2 previous directors. They let that absorb by finance department when they were doing cross training or something like that. But I do have a question. Parks and Rec does have 2 part-time positions. I heard that there was possibly a merger to a full-time position, or are you asking for a new full-time position with those 2 part-times?
Councilmember Villalpando, no, it's an existing part-time position and it will become a full-time.
Okay, so you're not really requesting
No,
a secondary position. You're pretty much combining two, correct?
Correct.
One thing I didn't see here in the capital improvement projects is the, anything related to the development on the west side. I know there's some budgeted, but I would like to see some prioritizing of these projects because I don't know, well, we'll see what the budget comes out to, but,
Yeah.
and also the
Zero
sign,
scape.
those $126,000, if we can look at, you know, the, where the traffic for Somerton is, if I'm assuming it probably comes from the east side in, and at least for, you know, most of the residents here, I don't know if that sign is working or if it's not. And then when it was working, I never saw it. So if we're gonna invest 130,000, we gotta find the best location, not because we have our Parks and Rec over there, but where it's gonna be more, if we're gonna be using it. If it's for Parks and Rec, programs maybe, but investment like that to announce other, let's choose a location that's gonna make sense and give us the most bang for our buck.
And Mayor, just to add to your comment, that sign, you know, we did purchase that corner. One of the things that we talked about was the high school coming into play, the amount of traffic that will be on that intersection, that the sign would be visible, but we can definitely look at a study and making sure that that has the highest impact if there is funding available for it.
Yeah, and in our last meeting, we discussed that location. So once we decide what we're gonna do, let's try to locate it. If it's that location somewhere that it makes sense and it's gonna jive with all the future plans that we have.
Exactly. Yes, we will. Thank you.
Mayor, one more thing.
Yes, go ahead.
The zero scape for the retention basins, it's been getting kicked and passed down from year to year to the following year. So if staff can look at that, a zero scape on some of these retention basins.
We'll take a look at that too, Mr. Villalpando.
Yeah, one time I think we discussed it last fiscal year. There was like a 3-year plan for it, so we can dig it up and take a look at that because yeah, that's been a priority of council for the last 5 years. It hasn't been done.
Any questions?
Any
more
other comments or
questions,
questions?
Comments? No.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
HR?
You control it, Andrea? Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. From the HR side, we're basically dealing with a lot of confidential information. And currently in the space where we're at, the only area that's away from the public is the office where I'm at. But the 2 other HR staff members that will be in the front of the office are in an open space. And it makes it difficult to keep confidential information away from people walking through the exits. If you go to the next slide, please. So there's 2 desks there in front of the HR office. And on the bottom right, you can see the rear exit door. So we have sometimes vendors coming in and other people from outside the organization coming through that door, as well as other staff members walking through that space. And as we move forward and hire full-time HR specialists, then that person's going to be located in that space. It would be highly beneficial to have some sort of enclosure to add some, separate the HR work from the traffic going by. So we're proposing glass wall enclosure similar to what's currently on the other offices. Projected cost would be somewhere around $10,000. It's not a firm. It's the best estimate that we can have at the time based on professional judgment from staff. The design for that enclosure would be done internally. I requested the design from Saul, and he's agreed to provide us the design and save money. Any questions on that? Next slide, please. There's no additional FTEs proposed for fiscal year 23-24. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Before you is the Community Development CIP FTE presentation for the upcoming fiscal year. And we'll start with CIP. The Community Development Department has no CIP projects for the upcoming fiscal year. For full-time employees, as you've heard throughout the night, we are also requesting the new FTE for administrative specialist, administrative secretary. The pay grade information and the minimum salary information is listed on the screen. And this would be a position that would be shared by community development, economic development, and administration to perform the duties of all three departments. This is the current community development organizational chart. The administrative specialist that we are requested is a 1/3 position, and it would serve all divisions of the community development, building safety, planning and zoning, and code enforcement, as well as the other two departments, economic development and administration. And as you've heard, there's always stuff going on in the second floor in community development and economic development. Sometimes it would just be very helpful, very beneficial to have an extra team member to assist all three departments. We only have one administrative assistant for the whole second floor at the moment. So all three departments concur that this would be very beneficial and help us provide a better level of service to our residents. Questions, comments?
Any questions or comments?
I have a question, Saul, or Louis. I would like to see how that person would be divided into three departments. I think dividing one person into three is too much. You know, to provide the level of service enough for each department, one to do three jobs, I don't see it feasible. But I would want to see what the job would entail, how much percentage for each department, because, you know, community development could need the person to do something while the other department needs something immediately. So is a person going to say, okay, well, I'm going to drop this one to do this? No, that it's just not feasible. I don't see it. But I would like to know how you would divide that into departments, or maybe lowering it and having it for two and then going to Arizona at Work. I know that Arizona at Work is struggling to find employers to bring this people in. They pay 700 hours and they provide all the insurances to them. So I think it would be beneficial for the city to really look into that for now. But I would want to see that information, please. Thank you.
So we'll work on that and provide that to the mayor and council.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The CIPs that you see in front of you are shared, all of them are shared by the fire department and ourselves. We're looking at replacing a server that we currently have, a physical server and a license on the first one that you have in front of you. And we're also looking at restoring the roof that has been leaking for the past couple of years. We've found some temporary fixes for it, but it needs to be addressed. Our phone system, last estimate that we gathered, we're still pending 2 more estimates, but that was the last estimate that was provided to us. Our system, according to the vendor that we currently have, and we've had him since the building was occupied 2007, has been the same phone system that we've had. And the carpet, we're looking at replacing it throughout the fire department and the public safety building, conference room, training room, et cetera. Second slide, please. These will be the recommended staffing that we suggest that be hired to accommodate the needs of the community. And we're asking or we're requesting that you review the needs of an SRO to replace one that we had to remove because of shortage in staffing since December of 2022, an SRO for the Somerton High School. One detective, we've had the other detective out since August of 2021. And for this particular detective that we currently have in that position, he is currently behind on some of the cases since 2020. So we need to get him some help. The other position will be 2 patrol officers to help carry the load and provide additional coverage of assistance for calls for service. And the last position would be to stretch our part-time position that we have. We do have an opportunity to hire a contract records person, but that has been very difficult because they anticipate that if this position becomes a full-time, that they'll just end up working a couple months. Next slide, please. On this slide, please ignore the word proposed rate under the pink column. I was asked by some of the council members to mention the compression. We've identified at least 11 staff that have been employed with the city since 2017. That are on the compression, there's a compression issue. The numbers that you see on the pink column are numbers that HR and I were able to gather together using the pay scale that we use to bring people on board with the amount of experience that the staff that you see highlighted in the dark green colors. It would be very difficult for me to recommend any of these pay scale raises. It'd be insane for me to recommend that because of their huge increases. But I just wanted to share with you the amount of difference that the staff has been falling behind on some of the pay. Due to budget restraints, that would be difficult, but that's something that I wanted you to share with you guys. These are positions, it becomes difficult for us to bring in qualified staff and academy graduates. When we bring them in, they're gonna be making almost the same as the staff that has been here for a while. And I know I don't have to repeat that. I know it's something that you guys are aware of. Next slide, please. And the last slide that you see right here is you're gonna see this is the focus on the patrol officers. We have, as you see to the left corner, top corner of the screen, we have 3 sergeants on duty and we have 9 officers. At the bottom of the 9 officers, you will see 3 little boxes that read OIT. That means officers in training. We currently have 3 officers in training and 1 detective. The vacancies that I just mentioned. One of the things that the staffing, the command staff at the police department has done to stretch out the officers that we have is bring the sergeants to a schedule of 5/8 and everybody else. So sometimes you will see officers overlapping 2 hours, but for the most time you have 1 sergeant and maybe 2 officers, or just 2 officers working on duty a shift of 8 hours. We have difficulty bringing special task forces or sending officers to special assignments because of the number of officers that we have. And unfortunately, we've had to pull our school resource officer a couple times from the school. I mentioned that already. And that is all I have. I'll take any questions if you have any for me.
Questions or comments?
Thank you.
Fire. Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor and council members. So what I am proposing to hire 6 additional firefighters, and that would just be to be in compliance with NFPA standards. Currently, the standards state that there has to be 15 personnel per fire incident. And currently we have 7 on the floor. And then if the battalion chief, the chief, the inspector respond, we have 3 more additional. It's unseen where they have a fire department that runs a fire engine with a 1-man,
and we've been doing that for years. Currently, our fire truck is only ran with one, the engineer, the driver, and that's it. So that's why my proposal is if possibility to hire 6 additional EMT firefighters. With that, we're looking at a cost of 283,500. We also would have to do the equipment, which would be another $22,000 for those 6 additional. Now, that is what I'm proposing. We've been working with Louis and Carmen, and we might be looking into maybe asking Cocopa, since the agreement we've had with them for 20 years now has not changed. So that's also a possibility of maybe we can go half and half, or somehow work the hiring of additional firefighters. Another thing that I am working on is the compression. I'm still working with Armando, getting some of those numbers, but just to kind of let you know, for the city of San Luis Fire Department, their starting salaries at $16.11. If they're a paramedic, they get an additional $2.15 stipend. And then if they're a hazmat, they get additional 50 cents. For Yuma, the paramedic stipend is $2.88. For hazmat, it's 94 cents. And once again, for Somerton, if you become a paramedic, you get an 89 cents stipend. Or for hazmat, there's currently nothing on it. So, I mean, we need to work on that. Also, we have a starting EMT, correction, we have a starting paramedic firefighter making $16.86. And I have 2 people that have been working for us for 15 years making $17.60. That's just a 74 cents difference. So that's something that I'm going to be working with Armando, Louis, and Carmen. Currently, the minimum wage for Arizona is $13.85. Starting EMT for us is $14.26. That's only a 41 cents difference. So, I mean, we have to work on that. And hopefully, I know it's gonna take some time, but I know we're gonna make it and work that out. So, next slide. For my CIP, we can move down. For our CIP projects, I'm requesting a extractor. The extractor that we currently have has been in place since we built the fire station, so it's almost 20 years old. This is used to wash our gear. We're required now that if after every fire that we respond to, our gear has to be washed to wash out any carcinogens that there might be residue that has left over. The machine that we have has broken down twice. We've been able to fix it in-house, but I mean, it's to the point that if it breaks again, I mean, finding parts for it and all that, it's getting difficult. So I'm putting in for around $14,000 to $18,000 for replacement of the extractor. Next one, I think Chief Juarez already touched bases on it really quick. New server, 10,000, fix the roof, 13,000, phone replacement, 60,000, and then the carpet replacement is 25,000. So can move next slide, please. The other one, once again, I'm looking at replacing our vehicles. The 2-step vehicles that I'm looking to replace would be the battalion chief's vehicle and the fire inspector. Currently, it's a 2010 Ford F-250 with 169,000 miles, which is 13 years old. The other one is a 2009 Chevrolet Tahoe with 136,000 miles, 14 years old. That vehicle actually was given to us, donated to us for destruction, for us to practice our JAWS extrication, but past administration decided to keep it as a staff vehicle. But eventually these vehicles, that one currently, we do not operate in emergency as an emergency vehicle. They do respond with it. Once they get on scene, they'll turn their lights on, but it won't respond to emergency traffic on the highway. So I'm proposing to replace them with 2 2023 F-150s, 4x4 crew cabs. For those, we're looking around 98,000 for both, plus an additional 50,000 for both vehicles for equipping them with emergency lights, sirens, and all those other things that are required for emergency vehicle. And finally, to replace our thermal imager camera, this camera is used when we go to residential fires. If the fire's behind the walls where we actually cannot see it, it will detect the heat. Currently, the one that we have, once again, it's outdated. We're having issues with the batteries, trying to find batteries. So for replacement on this one, we're looking around $8,000 to $10,000 for the replacement of the thermal imager camera. I'm also looking through other funding sources. In July, Firehouse Subs is gonna open their grant process. So I'm gonna be putting in, maybe we can get the thermal image camera or the extractor through Firehouse Subs. I'm still researching on that, so there will be other sources that I'm gonna be looking at. And then I just ran some quick numbers from 2017 up to 2022. We've seen an increase of call volume of 19%. So we've seen a 19% increase in traffic incidents that we've been responding within the city of Somerton and our surrounding areas. So any questions?
Any questions or comments? My comment, well, the 6 FTE seems I don't know how we can afford and take care of the other stuff, but yeah, prioritize what's needed for the department and then, but yeah.
And I understand that, Mayor, and that's what, like I said, I'm putting in what we would need. And like I said, if it's where we would do it 2 at a time, 1 at a time, like I said, looking through other funding sources. I know FEMA has a grant that we can actually apply for, but like I said, that's just what I'm putting, so our department would be fully staffed. Thank you for your time.
So we always pay the big bucks to
Yeah.
present a
Well,
balanced
we'll definitely, administration will work on prioritizing and really this is a wish list in a sense sometimes because some of these will be phased in because of funding. But we just want to be able to hear that and Carmen and I will review those and have your recommendations, but Carmen had something to add.
Councilwoman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know if that would be like a wish list, Louis, because, I'm hearing the chief and he's saying like the extractor and the thermal image. I mean, I don't think that's part of a wish list. I'm looking at that, that's a requirement. And so I think we need to really look into things what they are required to have, because he's saying that they are now required to wash their uniform after a fire. And it's been broken or it's breaking down. So I think we need to really look at that. I don't think that's a wish.
No, I'm sorry, Councilwoman. I was talking about FTEs.
Okay.
And not the equipment, I agree. That has to be a priority, yes, for them, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, these are the requests by the General Fund. The only ones that are pending is the Court and Finance Department. The Court, we met, Louis and I met with Judge Torok yesterday, and she's going through she's barely going through the information as she just started last week. So there might be some requests by the Court in the near future that we are going to be forwarding to you. Finance Department is the same thing. Ross has been really busy trying to accommodate the budget. And hopefully in the next work session, we'll be presenting the enterprise CIP request for your review. And that may happen sometime in May. Okay.
Thank you.
And I think unless there's any other questions, again, a lot to take in and we're going to be working with the department directors again on the priority and like Carmen mentioned, we're working with finance department. We're still heavily involved in the aspects of the revenues and the grants and all that. So we want to make sure that we have a good number to be able to come to the council and report on. So.
And I'm gonna ask you to send, you can find the list of CIPs from last year, send it to council and council members if you see anything that you would like to add or put in the list so we can discuss for the next work session. We can all be on the same page.
Will do, Mayor.
6:53, meeting's adjourned.